Okay, and then the other thing I want to talk about, because I have a couple of different samples here, these three necks here, is neck shape. We have, this is a C-shaped neck, and then I have a U-shaped neck in here, right here on this one, and then this is an unfinished sanded V-neck. Tell me about the different shapes of the necks and just how that affects you and your job and what you do.
Okay, well, when you start talking about neck shapes, you almost got to have a little history lesson, unfortunately. If you look back at the original Fenders, which started out as big old fat U's, you know, it's just a big giant baseball bat U shape that stays at 1 inch to 1 inch. Players were starting to complain, that's hurting my hand, it's too big, I want it smaller. So they started knocking this part of the neck off.
And we call that part?
The shoulder. Started killing the shoulder a little bit to make it thinner, but they didn't actually make it thinner. So now you're getting the birth of a V. And then from there, you know, obviously they realized, well, these necks are pretty stable. We can start taking more meat off of them and do more of a C shape. So as far as neck shapes go, I guess it kind of just depends on where you fall into your history lesson of what you like.
And when you build a custom guitar for a guy, you know, whether he's a rock star guy or I'd say a professional musician, or a guy who's a semi-professional musician, or just a guy who wants a nice guitar, how much thought goes into that neck shape? Are they pretty specific about that as well?
They can be, and I'll always ask them first and foremost, well, you know, what's your all-time favorite guitar you've ever had? If he says a no-caster, I know what he wants.
Yeah.
You know, he wants big giant neck. If he's, oh man, you know, back when I was a kid, my mom gave me this, you know, 67 Strat, you know, okay, well now you want something smaller, you know. So, you know, I try to figure out what they're doing with it, and then we'll go from there.
I think a big part, and I know we talk about it a lot in the shop and on some of the videos that we have on FenderCustomShop.com, but I think a lot of it is you as a builder is you have to kind of draw out and find. It's not so much, and I know you hate this as much as I do, when people come to you and say, hey, what would you do? What do you think we should do? And so I think that it's that thing where you kind of have to draw that out of the customer, or you know, the artist or whoever it is, of what they really want or what they're thinking about. Tell me about how that works for you.
Well, some guys come in right out of the gate, man, they know exactly what they want the wood grain to look like, you know, and that's cool. I kind of prefer that a lot of times because it takes my guesswork out. Some guys, you know, they're kind of just kicking the tire a little bit. I don't want to dumb it down quite that far, but you know, they do want to kind of know what they're going for, and I kind of got to find out how they play, or they, you know, what kind of music do they enjoy playing with it, or what they want an all around. You know, they just kind of got to get into their head a little bit and find out where they're going with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like being a detective. I mean, do you bend a lot?
Yeah.
If they answer that question, you can kind of say, okay, well then he's probably going to want bigger frets, and he's probably want a flatter radius then.
I've seen you play. I think you'd probably want a vintage fret with a pretty big neck because you beat the living crap out of the guitar.
Well, I mean, and then some guys are like scrubbers, so like you call them, and you know, they're more down in here, and it's less up what's happening up here,
yeah,
right?
Right.
So, what else? When you, I mean, this is such, I think, a big part of the instrument, the neck part, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's everything.
What other things come to mind when we talk about necks and like building a custom guitar for you?
Well, you know, everyone does their neck differently in the shop, and they're all really, really great, but you can kind of look at a builder's neck a mile away and know whose it is. Big part of it is how we roll the fingerboard. If you roll, you know, with a Fender, the nut width is what it is, especially on a vintage. They've been widened for the American Standard Series for that reason a little bit, so you don't get the high E falling off. But, you know, you can't roll your edge too far. Everyone wants that comfort. Unless it's a bass, I'll roll it like crazy. But there's just that fine line where the roll has to kind of roll into the fret as well. Otherwise, the fret cantilevers over the roll, that's not good. So that really, for me, comes into the most, or the comfort of the neck. It's just got to be comfortable, because that's the first connection to the guitar I think someone feels, is when they grab that neck. It's like, oh, you know, and I want someone to just pick up a guitar belt and go, oh God, that's the one, you know, and not know why.
What about tuners? Do tuners really affect the sound of the guitar?
No, I don't think so, personally. Yeah. Someone may argue that, but we do offer a ton of just about any tuner on the market. We'll talk about, but you know, vintage tuners are a great tuner. They've been revamped and over the years, and you know, they work great. They're not, you know, they don't have the stigma they used to anymore. They all work terrific. If you want a locking tuner, and the purpose of a locking tuner is so you don't have to have a lot of winds on the post. So if you are using your tremolo a lot, it doesn't have to rewind and come out in some crazy tuning that you didn't know was there.